Your life isn't random, it's scripted by laws you were never taught. From the moment you opened your eyes to this world, you've been living inside something far more structured than it appears. Every moment, every so-called coincidence, every cycle you've repeated, none of it happened by chance. Because chance doesn't exist. It's just a name we give to laws we don't yet understand. And now, for the first time, you're about to understand one of them. The KYBALION isn't just an old book. It's a blueprint, one that reveals how reality actually works beneath the noise of the world. Buried in its pages is a law that governs the way your life unfolds, whether you know about it or not. This law doesn't sleep. It doesn't wait for belief. It simply is. And if this video found you now, it's because something inside you is finally ready to see the invisible architecture that has always been holding everything together. Everything you've ever touched, loved, feared, or chased began in one place: mind. Not just your own mind, but something far greater. The KYBALION calls it the All. And its first law, the principle of mentalism, says it plainly: the All is mind, the universe is mental. This isn't a poetic metaphor, it's literal. What you call reality is the outer echo of an inner thought. The world is not happening to you, it's happening through you. You are not walking through a world of solid objects. You are walking through layers of vibration shaped by consciousness. Every tree, every stranger, every coincidence, every loss, none of it stands apart from the mental field that projects it. And that field, whether you know it or not, is shaped by the frequency of your thoughts. But most people don't know this. They think the world is fixed, that life is something you endure, something that punishes or blesses you according to mysterious whims. You were taught that success comes from effort, that love arrives by luck, and that pain is just part of being alive. But what if that isn't true? What if every struggle, every repeated pattern, every frustration you've been calling bad luck is actually the universe responding to the invisible frequency of your own mental field? That would mean that nothing in your life is disconnected from your inner state. And more importantly, it would mean you can change it. Your reality is not a fact. It's a reflection. What you believe, what you assume, what you fear, those aren't passive thoughts. They're blueprints. They tell the field what to generate next. Think of it like this. When you dream at night, your mind creates entire worlds. People, places, timelines, stories. And it all feels real until you wake up. But what if waking life works the same way, just at a slower frequency? What if this world is a shared dream, a projection from a source so vast that you can barely comprehend it? And what if you, your consciousness, are a fragment of that source, meaning you are both within the dream and shaping it at the same time? The moment you see this, everything changes. You stop playing the victim. You stop waiting for signs. You begin to look inward, not outward, for the origin of your experience. This is the first doorway, and it's the one most people never walk through, because to accept that your thoughts create reality is also to accept responsibility for everything that's been happening around you. That's not comfortable. It's not easy, but it's necessary, because until you take ownership of the inner world, the outer world will keep looping back the same lessons in louder and louder ways. And this is where the KYBALION becomes dangerous. Not because it harms you, but because it removes every excuse you've ever used to stay asleep. Once you read its words, once you feel their vibration inside you, the illusion of randomness begins to fall apart, and you begin to see the machinery behind the moment. Life was never happening at random. It was responding to your state, your vibration, your beliefs, your focus. And the sooner you begin working with that truth, the sooner life stops feeling like survival and starts becoming creation. Some insights are too sensitive to share here. Join the free Insights Academy newsletter using the link in the description and receive a free copy of the KYBALION, only available for a limited time. You see, this isn't about thinking positively. That's surface work. This is about understanding that thought itself is the seed of form. That belief is geometry. That intention, when held long enough, becomes mass. Mentalism is not a motivational slogan. It's a law. It says that the same mind that birthed galaxies is the same field generating the events of your day. And if that field is mental, then every shift in perception reshapes the grid. This is why awareness is everything. Because when you change how you see, you change what you get. And the more you sharpen that awareness, the more quickly reality responds. You stop getting lessons. You start getting confirmations. Synchronicity increases. Serendipity becomes normal. You feel the veil thinning. You start seeing how thoughts ripple outward like invisible commands. And you realize, this isn't magic. It's the law. It's always been law. And now you've remembered it. How many times have you heard it? That was just bad luck. Or, it must be fate. As if life were some chaotic roulette wheel spinning wildly beyond your control. You've been taught to accept randomness as normal, to write off strange alignments and harsh setbacks as accidents of a disordered universe. But what if nothing you've ever experienced was random? What if the coincidences, the near misses, the repeating cycles, what if every one of them was precise, mathematical, governed by something deeper? The KYBALION tells you plainly, chance is but a name for law not recognized. In other words, what looks like luck is simply the effect of a cause you didn't see. Just because you don't understand how something happened doesn't mean it was arbitrary. It means you missed the initiating vibration. Life is not guessing, it's listening. And every moment you live is the echo of something previously set in motion, either by you or by the collective field you're entangled in. When something just happens, a job loss, a sudden breakup, an unexpected opportunity, you might chalk it up to randomness. But if you zoom in, there's always a thread, a thought, a tension, a belief system quietly vibrating in the background, shaping the next scene in your personal movie. It might be a fear you've been carrying, a lesson you've ignored, a frequency you've been stuck in without knowing. The universe doesn't punish, it mirrors, and the mirror doesn't lie. It just reflects what's there even if you've never consciously seen it. This is the power and the challenge of cause and effect, another one of the Hermetic laws. It says that nothing, absolutely nothing, happens without a cause, and no cause exists without producing an effect. Whether it's the words you speak, the emotions you suppress, the people you attract, or the things you avoid, every single act carries a vibration. And that vibration moves. It moves into the field. It organizes matter. It magnetizes people. It draws forward events that resonate with it, not because you deserve them, but because you're vibrating them. This is why life seems to repeat itself when you don't learn the underlying pattern. It's not because you're cursed. It's not karma in some moral sense. It's resonance. Until you shift the internal cause, the external effect will keep cycling back. Different names, same lesson. Different places, same pattern. And once you see this, you begin to ask different questions. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what am I vibrating that brought this in? It's not about guilt. It's about responsibility. And responsibility is the price of power. This is why people who awaken often go through a phase of isolation. Not because the world has abandoned them, but because their frequency no longer matches the old patterns. The people they once resonated with feel distant. The work they used to tolerate becomes unbearable. The system that shaped their routine begins to fall apart. And while that might feel like loss, it's not. It's the field reorganizing around your new internal state. And it's exactly what's supposed to happen. When you truly understand cause and effect, you stop trying to control outcomes directly. You stop manipulating the outer world to feel better. Instead, you go to the source, you. You start observing your thoughts, tracking your emotional patterns, choosing your language more carefully, not out of fear, but out of awareness. You realize that reality is not reactive. It's responsive, and it's always listening, not to what you say you want, but to what you actually believe and vibrate beneath the surface. Think about the most significant turning points in your life. Were they really accidents? Or were they the return of an intention you forgot you sent out? A belief you didn't know you carried? A thought pattern you've repeated silently for years? The universe is meticulous. It misses nothing, and every effect is waiting at the edge of your current frequency. When you understand this, something powerful happens. You stop outsourcing your life to luck. You stop worshipping fate, and you start living as if you are the point of origin. Because you are. You always were. You just didn't know what law was shaping your story. But now you do. And once you see the pattern, you begin to change the outcome, not by force, but by frequency. The truth was never meant to be popular. It was meant to be protected. That's why ancient teachings like the KYBALION were never taught openly. They weren't shared in public squares or printed in mass-market books. They were whispered in temples, encoded in symbols, buried in metaphors, and passed from master to student when the student was finally ready. And most weren't. Most still aren't. Because this kind of knowledge doesn't entertain the mind, it confronts it. It doesn't comfort your illusions. It dismantles them. And that kind of awakening, real awakening, isn't gentle. It's shattering. In ancient Egypt, knowledge was not seen as information. It was vibration. To teach meant to transmit frequency, not facts. Hermes Trismegistus, the figure at the root of Hermetic philosophy, wasn't just a man. He was a fusion of two worlds: Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom and writing, and Hermes, the Greek messenger of the gods. One represented cosmic memory, the other, divine communication. Together, they became the symbol of the bridge between mind and matter, between heaven and earth, between the seen and the unseen. But Hermes wasn't trying to be understood by everyone. He was trying to protect something sacred. He knew that truth, when handed to the unprepared, becomes distortion. It becomes weaponized. It gets twisted to serve the ego, to manipulate, to dominate. And so the teachings were hidden, not out of elitism, but out of necessity. Not everyone is ready to hold power without using it to control others. Not everyone is willing to dismantle their identity to meet the truth as it is, not as they wish it to be. And maybe that's why the KYBALION doesn't scream for your attention. It doesn't market itself with promises or miracles. It waits, quietly, patiently, like a mirror tucked in the corner of a forgotten room. You could walk past it 1,000 times and never see it. But one day, something changes. One day, you stop, you turn, you look, and you realize it's been waiting for you all along. The Hermetic laws are not just lessons, they're thresholds. And once you cross them, your life stops working the way it used to. You can't unsee the mirror. You can't pretend your thoughts are powerless. You can't blame the outside world for what the inner world keeps creating. And if you've made it this far, if you're still here listening to this, it's not an accident. It's alignment. It means that something in you, some deeper part, has been asking, quietly, persistently, and now, finally, it's being answered. Because here's the truth. This isn't a trend. It's not a spiritual aesthetic. It's a remembering, the return of something ancient and alive that's been buried beneath distraction, noise, and false narratives. You're not learning something new. You're waking up to something you've always known. This knowledge has never truly disappeared. It's been encoded in myths, echoed in dreams, and buried in the subconscious, waiting for the right vibration to unlock it. You don't read the KYBALION. It reads you. It's like a mirror that only reflects what you're ready to see. And that's why it never lands the same way twice. When you're asleep, it's a confusing book of old words. When you're half awake, it's a curious puzzle. But when you're truly ready, it feels like an ancient voice inside you whispering, "You've always known this. You just forgot." And maybe that's the real reason it was hidden, because it could only reveal itself when the world, when the soul, when you were ready, when the distractions became too loud to ignore, when the loops started to repeat too clearly, when the questions you've been carrying finally outweighed the fear of the answers. That's when the teachings return. Not to show you something new, but to remind you of what you came here to remember. So the real question is not why this law was hidden. The real question is, why is it showing itself to you now? What part of your life is finally soft enough, broken open enough, aware enough to receive what it once rejected? What are you finally ready to reclaim? You've been taught to see spiritual principles as abstract ideas, soft, symbolic, optional, something you might believe in if it feels right, like faith or intuition. But the Hermetic teachings don't ask for belief. They don't care if you accept them or not. They're not personal. They're not trying to comfort you. They are mechanical, and they operate with or without your permission. The KYBALION doesn't present a worldview. It exposes the operating system of reality itself. These laws don't live in temples or old books. They live in your breath, your thoughts, your relationships, your biology. They are everywhere, all the time, invisible and undeniable. And once you see them everywhere. The 7 Hermetic principles aren't 7 ideas. They're 7 functions, movements of the universal mind that shape everything from galaxies to gut feelings. The principle of mentalism tells you that all of this, everything you see, touch, think, lose, crave, exists within mind. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. You are walking through thought-made form. The principle of correspondence follows naturally, as above, so below, as within, so without. Whatever you see outside of you is echoing something inside. Your inner state is not a private experience. It's a projection. Heal what's within, and the outer shifts. Refuse what's within, and it will shout louder through your external world. Then there's the principle of vibration. Everything moves. Nothing is truly still. And the only difference between dense matter and refined spirit is the speed of that vibration. Fear is slow and sticky. Love is fast and expansive, and you are always broadcasting a frequency. Every word, every thought, every suppressed emotion sends out a pulse. The field around you doesn't hear what you say. It feels what you are. That's why some people feel heavy when they enter a room and others light it up without speaking. Vibration doesn't lie. Polarity reminds you that opposites aren't separate. They're just ends of the same spectrum. Love and hate are not enemies. They are degrees. Cold and hot are both temperature. Dark and light are both expressions of energy. So when you're trapped in fear, you don't have to fight it. You just need to slide it up the scale. That's the basis of transmutation. You don't escape the shadow by resisting it. You shift its degree until it becomes clarity, until it becomes power. Then comes rhythm, the swing of the pendulum, the breath of the universe. Everything rises and falls. Emotion, clarity, energy, desire, it all moves in cycles. And the key isn't to resist the downs or cling to the ups. The key is to find your center so that when the swing comes, you don't lose yourself. Rhythm reminds you that contraction is not failure. It's preparation, like a wave pulling back before it crashes forward, like an inhale before a deeper exhale. The principle of cause and effect is the one most people feel but don't understand. You already know that actions have consequences, but what you've missed is that so do thoughts, so do assumptions, so do emotional patterns and passive stories you've told yourself since childhood. Every frequency generates an effect, and just because it takes time to appear doesn't mean it isn't coming. Reality is not waiting for your effort, it's reacting to your energy. Finally, the principle of gender, not biological gender, but energetic balance. Masculine energy pushes, directs, executes. Feminine energy receives, intuits, gestates. You need both to create. Every idea starts in the feminine, felt, received, dreamed, and is birthed through the masculine, acted on, structured, made real. If one is out of balance, creation collapses. Too much masculine, and you burn out chasing goals that feel hollow. Too much feminine, and you float in ideas with no ground beneath you. Real power is the dance between them. These laws are not arbitrary, they are precise. And when you begin to live with them, not just read about them, life starts to feel less like a struggle and more like a current you can move with. You stop trying to force your way through chaos and begin to listen for alignment. You stop reacting and you start responding. You stop chasing outcomes and you start calibrating your vibration. Because the truth is simple. Life is not random. It's rhythmic, mirrored, mental, and measurable. The laws are already at work. You're not learning how to activate them. You're learning how to stop resisting them. Most people carry a quiet ache they can't quite explain. It's that feeling that something's off, but you can't name it. Like you're living your life inside someone else's blueprint. Like no matter how hard you try, something always pulls you back into the same cycles, the same fears, the same self-sabotage, the same feeling of being stuck. You try to fix it by changing jobs, partners, cities, routines, but nothing outside seems to shift what's inside. And so you start to believe the worst lie of all, that you're broken. But you're not. You're misaligned. That ache inside isn't your enemy. It's a signal. It's your system telling you that the way you're living doesn't match the truth of who you are. It's the sound of internal law grinding against external illusion. And until you understand the laws that shape your experience, you'll keep trying to fix the effect without ever touching the cause. Here's what that looks like. You want love, but you carry an unconscious belief that people leave. So every time you get close to someone, your nervous system tightens. You overthink. You pull away or cling too tightly, and then it falls apart. And you call it heartbreak, or bad timing, or incompatibility. But underneath all of it was a vibration: I am not safe to love. The law wasn't punishing you. It was listening. It was simply returning your frequency back to you. Or maybe you want abundance. You say the affirmations. You visualize. But deep inside, you believe money is hard to earn, or that you're not good enough to have more than just enough. So you make just enough. Opportunities slide past. You sabotage the risks. You underprice your worth. And the law responds, not to your words, but to your vibration. And the cycle repeats. These aren't failures, they're feedback. And when you begin to see them this way, you stop judging yourself and start listening. You stop trying to override reality, and you start recalibrating your alignment. This is how people change. Not through force, but through recognition, through resonance. Because the moment you shift your internal frequency, the external pattern has no choice but to follow. That's the nature of the law. The KYBALION didn't come to remind you of your limits. It came to reveal your leverage. You don't change your life by fixing the outside. You change it by aligning your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions with the truth of the laws that are already shaping everything around you. And once you do that, everything starts to move. People show up differently. Opportunities appear that used to slip past. The world, which once felt heavy and random, begins to feel like a reflection, and that reflection starts smiling back. Alignment doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means you've stopped living against the rhythm. It means you've started listening to your own internal compass, rather than the noise of expectation, fear, and programming. It means your inner world and outer world begin to speak the same language. And in that harmony, you start to feel peace, not because life is easy, but because it finally makes sense. You were never broken. You were broadcasting the wrong signal. The beauty of Hermetic law is that once you recognize the broadcast, you can change it. Not by pretending, not by forcing, but by slowing down, going inward, and feeling the difference between what's true and what's habitual. The truth feels like relief. Habit feels like repetition. One keeps you asleep. The other wakes you up. So if you're tired of the loops, if you're done blaming fate, if you're finally ready to stop performing and start aligning, this is where that shift begins. The laws haven't been hiding from you. They've been waiting for you to stop hiding from yourself. You've been told to think positively, to visualize your dream life, to manifest it by imagining it over and over again. But what no one told you is that if your inner frequency contradicts what you're asking for, the universe won't respond to your words. It will respond to your vibration, because you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are, and the space between who you pretend to be and what you actually feel, that's where your life gets stuck. This is where Hermetic law becomes more than just insight. It becomes transformation. It becomes a system of inner alchemy, where you don't just think different thoughts, you become a different frequency. The KYBALION lays out the framework. It's not complicated. It's not mystical in the way we've been taught to fear. It's mechanical. And once you understand how the laws operate, you can begin to shape your reality from the inside out, not the outside in. It starts with vibration. Everything is energy, and that energy is always moving. Fear has a frequency. So does confidence. So does shame, gratitude, jealousy, joy. Every emotion you feel is a signal, and that signal has a corresponding consequence in your physical life. When you carry resentment, you don't just feel heavy, you attract situations that validate that heaviness. When you carry worthiness, the world mirrors that value back to you, not because it's generous, but because it's precise. This is not the law of optimism, it's the law of frequency. So how do you change your vibration? Not by forcing happiness, not by burying anger under fake gratitude, but by observing honestly, feeling fully, and then choosing consciously. The universe doesn't require perfection, it requires resonance. And you can begin to shift your resonance by making small but powerful decisions each day, choosing compassion over blame, silence over reaction, intention over habit. That's alchemy. And the shift doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to be true. Next comes polarity. When you feel low, the law of polarity reminds you that you are not stuck. You are just on one end of a spectrum. Every fear holds the potential for power. Every doubt contains the seed of clarity. You don't need to destroy what you feel. You just need to move it, slide it, raise it 1 degree at a time. You can't skip the scale, but you can climb it. This is emotional transmutation. It's not about pretending to be light. It's about lifting the shadow into light through presence, not denial. Then there's correspondence. As within, so without. You want your external life to change? Then something internal has to shift first. That doesn't mean self-blame. It means self-inquiry. What story am I still telling? What belief is still running? Where am I vibrating from lack while asking for abundance? When you align the inner with the outer, you stop chasing outcomes. You start magnetizing them, because the world doesn't follow your words. It follows your coherence and rhythm, the law that makes many people feel like they're failing. One day, everything flows. The next day, doubt creeps in. You feel inspired, then exhausted, clear, then confused. That doesn't mean you've regressed. It means you're alive. It means you're in rhythm. The key isn't to fight the low, but to meet it with awareness, to use the contraction to prepare your next expansion. The wise don't panic in the winter. They plant, they rest, because they know spring isn't a miracle. It's a law. And finally, mentalism, the origin point. Your mind is the canvas. Your thoughts are the brush. And every thought held with enough intensity and emotion becomes form. Not instantly, but inevitably. If you think of yourself as small, the world will shrink around you. If you think of yourself as aligned with divine order, you begin to see that order everywhere. What you hold internally doesn't just color your experience, it creates it. This is the shift. This is the alchemy. You don't fix your life by fixing life. You reprogram the frequencies that shape it. You stop trying to be in control and start learning to be in alignment. Because in a mental universe governed by exact laws, alignment is power. And the more you embody that truth, the more life begins to respond not as resistance, but as resonance. You were born into a script. Before you could speak, it was already being written for you, not by the universe, but by a system designed to tame your brilliance, shape your thinking, and dull your instinct to rebel. From your first day in school, you were taught to raise your hand for permission, to follow the bell, to memorize instead of question. You were taught that success means conformity, that safety means silence, and that value comes from being chosen by a grade, a boss, a partner, a system. You weren't educated, you were programmed, and the script was never yours. But you felt it, didn't you? that quiet resistance deep in your chest, that voice that whispered, "This isn't who I am." The moments where the world told you to shrink, and something inside you refused. You didn't know the language for it, but you felt the tension between the life you were told to live and the truth that burned beneath the surface. That's not rebellion. That's remembering. And it's not too late to answer it, because here's what no one ever told you. The system isn't designed to wake you up. It's designed to keep you useful, predictable, manageable. And as long as you keep following the script, you stay small enough to control. You go from school to work to bills to weekend escapes, all while wondering why life feels like it's happening in someone else's name. You keep chasing a version of success that was sold to you through repetition, not resonance. And the more you chase it, the further you drift from yourself. But awakening flips the script. And once you see the code, you can't pretend it's real. You start to question the architecture of your own desires. Do I actually want this? Or was I told I should? Whose voice is narrating my goals? Is it mine, or is it the echo of a teacher, a parent, a culture that profits off my sleep? These questions don't weaken you. They liberate you. Because the moment you stop mistaking the script for the truth, you begin to write your own. This is the rebellion the Hermetic laws invite. Not a rebellion of destruction, but of remembrance. Not chaos, but clarity. You were never meant to follow the program. You were meant to be the program, a living vibration of conscious creation. But that only happens when you stop identifying with the character you were given and start embodying the creator you've always been. You're not here to survive the system. You're here to outgrow it. And yes, that path can feel lonely at first. Because when you stop playing the role, the people still in the play don't know how to react. Some will call you unrealistic. Some will call you selfish. Some will fall away, and that will hurt. But it's necessary, because the life you're building can't be constructed with materials from your past. You're not upgrading the old model. You're building something entirely new, and not everyone can come with you. That's what makes this work sacred. Not because it's flashy or dramatic, but because it's true. You don't need to scream to rebel. You don't need to burn the system down to walk away from it. You just need to stop feeding it your energy, your silence, your attention, your belief. That's how it dies. Not in fire, but in absence. And that's how your real life begins. Quietly, courageously, authentically. You were never too much. You were just too real for a system built on pretend. You were never lost. You were just searching in places that were never meant to hold your truth. And now that you've stopped chasing the script, you're free to live the story your soul came here to tell, not the one you were handed. The one you were born to remember. Something strange happens when you begin to align with the truth. At first, it feels personal, like a quiet earthquake inside your chest. You start to notice the patterns in your own life, the way thoughts become things, the way cycles repeat until you finally see the hidden cause. But then something else starts to shift. You begin to see those same patterns in others. You watch them speak their fears into existence. You see them beg for freedom while guarding their cages. And that's when you realize, awakening isn't just about your life. It's about life itself. Every internal shift ripples outward. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, presence over performance, intention over impulse, you are contributing to a new frequency. One that challenges the old structures. One that makes the system tremble. Because the system doesn't fear rebellion. It expects that. It knows how to crush a protest, rewrite a headline, distract the masses. What it fears is something far quieter. Alignment, consciousness, coherence. People who live from the inside out and no longer need the system to define them. You see, the matrix doesn't fall when one person wakes up. It falls when enough people stop feeding it, when enough people stop believing the stories of lack, fear, and separation. When enough people see the laws at work, and instead of reacting to life, begin responding to it with presence and power. That's not ideology. That's frequency. And frequency moves faster than force. It's invisible, but it's contagious. That's how new worlds are born. You are not separate from that shift. You are part of it. Every time you bring awareness to a pattern, every time you choose to feel instead of flee, every time you speak the truth your conditioning taught you to swallow, you are not just healing yourself, you are reprogramming the field we all live in. Reality is not static, it's participatory. And your participation, once conscious, becomes revolutionary. That's why this work matters. Because while the laws apply to everyone individually, they also apply collectively. The more people wake up, the more the vibration of the collective rises. The more we live by law instead of illusion, the more we move from reaction to creation. And that shift is already happening, quietly, globally, through people like you who are choosing to live with eyes open. Collective awakening isn't just an idea, it's an inevitability. The laws are already in motion. The veil is already thinning. You can feel it. People are questioning things they once obeyed. They're searching for meaning beyond algorithms and manufactured dreams. They're tired of being told who to be. And they're beginning to remember what they are. Creators, mirrors, frequencies within a living, intelligent field. And the more of us that remember, the more impossible it becomes to maintain the illusion. That's what scares the system most, not violence, but vision, not noise, but knowing. Because the moment enough people stop asking for permission to be themselves, the moment enough of us stop seeking truth and start embodying it, the architecture of control collapses. So no, this isn't just about your life. It's about the collective life, the shared dream we're here to rewrite. Your awakening is not an escape from the world. It's your initiation into a new one. One built on truth, one built on law, one built on conscious alignment with the all. You're not too small to matter. You're not too late to help. You are right on time. You didn't stumble across this message by chance. And after everything we've explored together, you now understand why. The universe doesn't deal in accidents. It deals in alignment, in law, in exact echoes of inner states. If you made it this far, it means something deeper in you has shifted. Something subtle, but undeniable. You're no longer looking at life the same way. You're starting to feel it as a mirror, as a message, as a living feedback loop that responds not to your effort, but to your essence. The KYBALION is not just a book, it's a portal. And the moment you opened yourself to its truths, the moment you let its frequency reach into your awareness, you crossed a line between sleep and waking, between waiting and remembering. These hermetic laws are not ideas to believe, they are truths to live. And the more you live them, the more you discover something that defies every limitation you were taught to accept. That reality is not something happening to you, it's something happening through you. But this path is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to what you already are underneath the noise. The self that exists before programming, before performance, before fear. That self has always known these laws. It's why you've felt certain things weren't right, even when everyone else agreed. It's why you've always suspected there was something deeper going on beneath the surface. And now, you're beginning to see it clearly. The world will continue to push scripts. It will continue to sell you roles, identities, distractions. But now you know better. Now you know that real transformation doesn't come from escaping your life. It comes from recalibrating it, from shifting your frequency, from aligning with the laws that shape the very foundation of existence. That's not magic, that's mastery, and it's available to you now. So the question becomes, what are you choosing to vibrate into form? What thoughts will you nourish? What emotions will you honor? What internal broadcast will you allow to shape your external experience? Because you're not powerless. You never were. You were just disconnected from the source code. And now, you're plugged back in. This is where the real journey begins. Not in theories, not in concepts, but in how you walk, speak, think, and breathe from this moment forward. The KYBALION gave you the keys. The laws gave you the framework. Now you give them life. Through presence, through practice, through choosing alignment over autopilot, clarity over chaos. And if you felt something stir inside you while listening to this, if part of you feels like this wasn't just information but a remembering, then don't stop here. The deeper layers can't be spoken out loud. They have to be shared where truth is protected. That's why Insights Academy exists. Our free newsletter is where the teachings go deeper, without censorship or filters. And when you sign up today, you'll also receive a free copy of the KYBALION, not as a reward, but as a necessary tool for where you're going next. The link is in the description. So here's the invitation. Live the laws, not just with your mind, but with your energy. Not just for yourself, but for the ripple it sends into the world. Because every choice you make in alignment becomes part of a collective frequency, a new harmonic that others can feel. This is how the world changes, not through noise, but through coherence. You were never just here to survive. You were here to remember, to realign, and to rewrite reality from the inside out. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it."